Bins on for this one, folks. So number one, you know it's serious, and number two, you know I'm going to read. I'll go at an angle again because I hate how the bins look on my head where they look like that when I think they should be square. Yeah, I did a quick video the other day, folks, regarding Thin Lizzy. For those that watch the channel, that have watched me for a while, when I cover anything music-wise, you know I always mention Thin Lizzy and state them as being probably one of my favourite bands, if not favourite, of all time. They were the first band I seen when I was a kid, many years ago now. And as I said on last week's video, I seen something on YouTube a few days ago now. It was another channel called Blackguards Slappercast, and they did something on Thin Lizzy, and they also mentioned in passing Iron Maiden, and I give my views after seeing their video and a couple of thoughts of mine on here. Now, I did say when I gave those thoughts, I said that I'd also been watching another channel that covered rock bands, metal bands, whatever you want to call them, called The Sea of Tranquility. I've seen a couple of videos of theirs and I've really liked them. But I noticed as I'm flicking through my YouTube the other day, they're reviewing something that really took my interest, and it really did. I listened to it a couple of nights ago now, and this is me running through my thoughts, because I've got some thoughts on what they covered. But the original videos I've seen them do, they did a video of The Sea of Tranquility. It was about Deep Purple and various offshoot bands that have come from Deep Purple, like the Ian Gillan Band, or Gillan as it became, Rainbow, Whitesnake, and bands of that ilk. And I really enjoyed it. And then they did something about Thin Lizzy and UFO. They rated albums of theirs over about an 8 to 10 year period. I thought it was brilliant, really enjoyed that. The main guy on the channel that I know of is a guy called Pete Pardo. I think he's great. And I think on the two videos I've seen, he's been joined by a guy called Martin Popoff. I like Martin as well. He did say something that had me recoiling. I nearly fell off my chair. But other than that, I liked him. And well, I'll tell you what he said. I might as well tell you. He said that he likes The Damned more than he likes UFO. I thought, oh my God, how could anybody say that? But that's me joking, to be honest with you. Everybody to their own. And I've been more of a rock band aficionado and a rocker than the punk rock scene. I wasn't really into the punk rock. And I take The Damned as being from that ilk. That's not me, really. But anyway, seeing those couple of videos, they were great. The video I'm going to concentrate on now was something that Pete did the other night with a couple of guys from GB, from Britain, I think. And it was about 3 LPs from 3 bands that were classed as pioneers in the new wave of British heavy metal. I think it was a phrase that was coined by, I think, Jeff Barton from Sounds and later of Kerrang, but I may be wrong. But it was a movement in the very late 70s, early 80s, when harder kind of rock was coming in from the 70s, classic rock, and a lot of young British bands sprouted up from nowhere. Probably 2 of the leaders from that might be probably the 2 most successful bands would be Iron Maiden and Def Leppard. They'd be the biggest 2. I don't think Leppard liked to be classed as part of that movement, but they were, or they came out at that time. And Maiden, I don't think are bothered, but they came out at that time as well. Anyway, they did something the other night. They reviewed an LP by a band I can't say I've heard of. They reviewed an LP by a band called Samson, who I do know, I've seen on a few occasions, normally supporting other bands. Can't remember where I've seen them or how many times I've seen them, but I've seen them. I know Samson had a singer called Bruce Dickinson, who replaced Paul Di'Anio in Iron Maiden. Everybody says that Iron Maiden, that is the best version of Iron Maiden, and everybody loves them. He's got a very different voice, but a great voice. For me, the Di'Anio years with Maiden were much preferable. I prefer the first 2 LPs to anything else. I know he's probably not the better singer, and he was unreliable, especially at the end, but I love Paul Di'Anio. That was the band I fell in love with. Them first 2 LPs for me were killers. I think one of them was called that, to be honest with you, but they were killer LPs. Didn't mind the 3rd LP. I think was the one with the couple of big hits, the Number of the Beast LP, not the Number of the Beast, the Run to the Hills, Number of the Beast song. Love them 2 songs. Never really followed Maiden thereafter, though I have seen them once or twice with Dickinson, but I always preferred Di'Anio. But that's just me. I'm an old fogey. I get used to things and I can't be moved from what I like. The 3rd LP they were looking at was by a band called Diamond Head, and that's the one I want to concentrate on. Now, The Sea of Tranquility did this video the other night. It was about 1 hour and 5 minutes. This is going to take me about another 15. Theirs has been watched by about 3 or 4 thou. this might not even be watched by 30 or 40. The one I did by about Thin Lizzy from Blackheads has been watched by about 15 people. But that's only because I've got a much smaller viewership, many less subscribers, and many of my subscribers don't know that I've got an interest or a history in rock music. They don't know anything about that. But in time, people will see the videos I do, and I will get more people jumping on board that might want to listen to my views. And that's all they are, folks. Let me tell you before I go any further, this is my history with music and rock music. And this is me in a nutshell in there. I've got a problem in there, folks, in that I don't remember things. You'll say that's weird, but there's a lot I don't remember. I've seen so many bands I can't even begin to tell you. But I don't know how many times I've seen them. I don't know where I've seen them all. There's some bands I think I've seen that I may not have seen, seriously. There's some bands I think, no, I've not seen them, and I probably have, seriously. There are certain bands I remember and where I was at the time and when I seen them, that is true. But my memory isn't what it should be. That said, you can play me any song off the LP we're going to review now and the band we're going to review, and I'll know, I think, virtually every word to it. I've not had the LP out for probably, I don't want to say how many years, well, 15, 20 years, let's say. I may have played a few of the songs on various CDs and greatest hits, but they will have been like 3 or 4 years ago now, because I've not had it all working in the car for 3 or 4 years, so I've been away from it for a long, long time, but I played them that many times and I know like every word. The band I'm going to review I've seen many times. I've done a list yesterday of the gigs that they'll have played in my area that I may have seen. I don't know which ones I did and didn't see. More of that in a moment. You'll think it's weird, but I've seen them many, many, many times. The band was called Diamond Head. The first LP is, we refer to it as the White Album. That's what it was when it came out. I'll tell you a little bit about Diamond Head in my eyes. I'll tell you a bit about the White Album. I'll tell you a bit about Diamond Head as a band, or what I see and what I feel I know. I won't be spot on with everything, but I'll give you my take on things. And I'll tell you from a point of view of somebody that's seen the band and seen them on many occasions. I think the 3 guys that were doing the review, the 2 English guys or British guys with Pete Pardo, I don't know if any of them have ever seen the band, the original band. They did say, and I can't remember, I think they might not have done. One guy definitely hasn't, one guy he may have done, but I think he only seen them sort of years and years and years later in America. I don't think anybody's seen them in the 70s, 80s like I did myself. So I've got a bit of a jump on them there, if you like. But I'll give you a couple of stories to do with Diamond Head and make of it what you will. Right, where will I start? Well, let's start with the review. They did the review the other day. It's about an hour and 5 minutes. I'll be honest with you, the first 7 minutes of what they did bored me to death, because all they were talking about was what beer they were drinking at the time whilst doing the review, what brewery it was from, and what percent proof it was. I found it all pretty boring. That's 7 minutes. I'm not going to get that, but I probably just took 8, and you'll never get this back, folks, so I do apologise. I mean, was it Pete? Pete had to get up at one time and let the dog out. The dog was giving him some grief. I found that more interesting than them telling us what drinks they were drinking. I'm drinking nothing here, folks, so I've got nothing to tell you. We'll go straight into it. They mentioned the White Album. The White Album was an LP that Diamond Head themselves put together. They couldn't get a record deal in the early days. They went into a studio, maybe in the hometown of Stourbridge. They came from Stourbridge near Birmingham, as far as I'm aware, and they produced this LP. It was a killer LP. 3 songs on side 1, Lightning to the Nations, The Prince and Sucking My Love. And 4 on side 2, Am I Evil, Sweet and Innocent, It's Electric and Helpless. Just an absolute killer LP, just unbelievable. Production wise, maybe not brilliant. Money spent on it, certainly not a lot. They called it the White Album because it was in a white cover, and the first 250 or 500 were signed by band members. Often you get just one signature. The copy I bought was bought in a venue in Warrington, I think in 1980, and mine was signed by a guy called Colin Kimberley. The band consisted of Sean Harris on vocals, Brian Tatler on guitar, lead guitar, Colin Kimberley on bass, and Duncan Scott on drums. Since the time they started out, they've had many comings and goings. The only constant has been Brian Tatler. Brian leads the band now, still the guitarist, a great guitarist in my eyes. I believe he's also doing a bit with Saxon now as well. Does a bit of moonlighting there. Good luck to him, I say. But Brian Tatler, loved him. Colin, absolutely loved him, just a nice guy. Reading some things yesterday, I think Colin departed later than I thought. I thought he departed just after 1980. I think he was there for about 3 years. I think Duncan departed at about the same time. I thought Duncan left a lot later than Colin, but I may be wrong. Sean Harris left late on. I won't go into all the dates and whatever else and all the reasons, because we know some of them, we've read some of them, we don't know what and what isn't true. But Sean departed, came back again. Well, the band really disbanded, they came back again, and then Sean departed, I think, in probably about 2002, 2003. From about 2005 or 6, they had a singer in called Nick Tart, and they've got a chap now called Rasmus, I think he's a Danish guy, that fronts the band. As I say, the only constant has been Brian Tatler. What did I like about the band? Well, everything. They're one of the greatest bands I've ever seen. Just an absolutely unbelievable band. Live, God, some bands can't cut it. They can, they could, they did. They were absolutely sensational. I'd have been probably about 19 or 20 the first time I saw them. The first band I ever saw, I'd have been about 15 or 16. It was a big band. It was Thin Lizzy. That was the first band I saw in something like 75 or 76. I still don't remember the year. I think if you put a gun to me, I'd say 76, but it could have been 75. Diamond Head was 80. I thought it was early, but it was 80, because if you look on the Diamond Head website, it shows you every single gig they've ever done, which I found absolutely fascinating. More of that later. They came to a place called the Lion Hotel in Warrington. It was a big pub in Warrington with a big upstairs. The venue was upstairs. You went, if memory serves, as you first walked into the Lion, you'd go straight in. There'd be what they call the back bar downstairs. And there'd be a second bar next to it on the right. The stairs were on the right. You go all the way up the stairs. This is from memory, and I might be wrong here. As you went all the way to the top of the stairs, there was a big landing. Then I think from the landing you went to the right, and first right again there was a bar. And from the landing I think you went right and then left, and that was like the hall where they had bands on. If the band was crap and whatever else, they might have tables and chairs in there. If the band was really good and was going to sell the place out, there'd be no tables and chairs. It would just be floor, so you could all stand. I think all stood, you'd take probably 300 to 400 in there, but I may be wrong. There'd be certain bands where if there were more than that in there, whether they should have them or not because of fire, they'd have them. So they'd pile in as many as they could. Diamond Head were one of those bands. I always thought I'd seen them the first time they came there, but when I realised how many times they came in the first year, I nearly died. I'm thinking I don't think I'd seen them the first time they were there. I think friends had seen them once or even twice and said, you want to get down and see these? These are brilliant, these are just a top-notch band there. I think I went down and seen them and was bowled over. And then when I noticed how many times they played that first year, I think I seen them again very, very quickly. And that may be at the time they brought the White Album in and I bought it. I'm thinking, but I could be wrong. I remember chatting to Colin on the landing before you went into the venue. Probably, I think when the set ended, I think it was. I think it was when the set ended. All the band were outside talking to fans, and it was great. Really enjoyed it. Level-headed, just nice, decent guys, young kids, about the same age as myself, maybe even a bit younger. I don't know. Thought they were great. The atmosphere in there was absolutely phenomenal. It was a big hall. It was brilliant. They had the stage above us there at the top end, at the back of the pub. We'd be looking on the stage, would be over there. The stage was like that high off the floor, sort of 4 or 5 foot. They'd have a stack of speakers both sides, and one of Sean's party pieces was climbing the speakers and singing from the top of the speakers. It was just brilliant. When the crowd got used to them and realised how good they were, the crowd would be up and down in unison, and the floor would actually move. It wasn't a sprung floor, I don't think, like at the Ritz Ballroom in Manchester, but you could feel the floor moving. It was a wonderful thing. There were times you think, will this floor stand it? Will it go through? It never did, but you thought it may. And at that time, I think all they were doing was that LP. I think that's probably all they had, and maybe a couple more songs. If I remember right, I think there was a couple of songs they did twice. I'm sure they always did Shoot Out the Lights twice. That wasn't even on the LP. And I think they also did Am I Evil twice. I think they might have started the night with it and done it as an encore, but I'm only guessing that. I don't remember for sure. Now, Diamond Head got pretty big in America, although no one had ever seen them over there because of Metallica. Lars Ulrich, I think it's the drummer there with Metallica, always loved them. He always cites them as being one of his greatest influences with music. Before Metallica got together, I think Diamond Head were probably his favourite band. And I think to that end, Metallica will play about 4 songs of Diamond Heads. Now, I've never been a Metallica fan. I know they're supposed to be brilliant. I know they're massive. They're bigger than Diamond Head ever were. But I just never took to them. I don't know what it was. I mean, I think I came from the classic rock era, 70s. I missed Metallica out when Guns N' Roses came around. I liked Guns N' Roses, or I liked the 3 hits of theirs. Then I liked, say, 3 more hits. Then realised I didn't really like Axl, and I fell away with them a little bit now, although I know some of the songs they've done are great. The other thing for me with Guns N' Roses, everyone raves about Slash. Yeah, good guitarist, done some great riffs, but he's not one of the best 5 or the best 10 in the world, for all people try to tell me he is. But he's good at what he does. But I was always rooted in classic rock, and that'd be the late 70s, very early 80s. Most of it British, some of it American. Metallica, as I say, I passed those by, along with all the thrash metal bands. I've never been into metal and thrash. I was more into the classic rock era. Diamond Head were probably, and Def Leppard were probably the latter ones that I liked, along with maybe your Iron Maidens. And then after that, as I say, there was a big hiatus, and I didn't mind Guns N' Roses. Then an even bigger hiatus, and the Killers came around. I loved the Killers. They might not be a rock band, a heavy rock band, but they're a band that do it for me. But anyway, we're on about Diamond Head at this moment. I'm giving you a bit of history from me. Why, I don't know, folks, but I am. So that was the LP, the White Album. It got released later. I think they called it Lightning to the Nations, when I think they went with MCA. But the songs on that White Album were just fantastic. Lightning to the Nations, a cracker. The Prince, a lot of it instrumental, but great. Sucking My Love was as it sounds. How they got away with it, I don't know. Loved it. Am I Evil? One of the greatest rock records I've ever heard in my life. One of the greatest intros I've ever heard in my life. I just thought it was killer. I thought it was brilliant. Brilliant. Sweet and Innocent, great song. It's Electric, real fun song. Helpless, hard, heavy, fast. They redid it a couple of different ways in time and slowed it down, but a great song. But love them. Absolutely love them. Where do we go from there? Next LP. Was it next LP? It'd be Borrowed Time. Borrowed Time had In the Heat of the Night, To Heaven from Hell, Call Me, Lightning to the Nations. He'd also have Borrowed Time, Don't You Ever Leave Me, and Am I Evil. A couple of songs there come from the White Album and made their way to Borrowed Time. The favourites for me, they're probably In the Heat of the Night and Am I Evil. Then we had Canterbury. Canterbury was the LP that really broke the band. That's where they really fractured. Some people like it. Some people don't. The odd ones of us love it. I'm one of the odd ones. I absolutely adored this LP. Totally different direction. Totally different sound. I think it had Brian and Sean falling out. I think Sean wanted to go more melodic and move away from the heavy rock thing. Brian didn't, which is it's a shame because there's compromises on there. I think there was a hell of a lot more went into the making of it. They spent a lot of money and lost money. It took forever. They went for a different sound, different dynamics, and that took a lot more time. But I loved it. Songs on there: Making Music, Out of Phase, The Kingmaker, One More Night, To the Devil Is Due, Side 2, Night of the Swords, Ishmael, I Need Your Love, and Canterbury. My favourite songs on there will probably be Making Music, Out of Phase, To the Devil Is Due, Ishmael, and Canterbury. Loved them all. That was LP number 3. Album number 4, after a hiatus. Now the first LP, the White Album, 1980. Borrowed Time, 82. Canterbury, 83. Death and Progress, 1993. 10-year hiatus. Big gap there. Starcrossed Lovers of the Night, I think that's the one that Tony Iommi was on, if memory serves. Trucking, Calling Your Name, I Can't Help Myself, Dust, Run, Wild on the Streets, Damnation Street, and Home. My favourites on there: Starcrossed Lovers of the Night, Trucking, Run, Wild on the Streets, and Home. More about Run in a moment. And then various singles, lots of B-sides, but honourable mentions: Shoot Out the Lights, Waited Too Long, Play It Loud, and Call Me. All really pop songy, 3 of them especially, but love them all. Like the B-sides. Just a great band. Seen them on loads and loads of occasions. As I say, I don't even know how many times I've seen them and where I've seen them, but I'll give you a couple of ideas now of where I may have seen them. That's how bad this memory of mine is. But going back to that Death and Progress LP, they also did something later. Well, they did it twice. I think they did an EP called Four Cuts with 4 songs on there, and then they did an EP further down the line. I'm sure it was also called Four Cuts. I'm sure they did it twice, and that was acoustic. And one of the songs in there was a song called Run from the Death and Progress LP. For my money, as good a song as they ever did. If you get a chance, folks, go listen to Diamond Head, listen to Run on the Four Cuts LP, the acoustic version. You'll love it. It's just brilliant. There was a time for about 3 or 4 years, a good few years ago now, I had a big house. And then after that, I had a very big house. I've got neither now. When I had the big house, I used to be taking the kids here, there and everywhere over the weekends in the car. And I'd have probably a stock 10 or 12 rock songs that I regularly play them. They know them all to this day. There'd be a Diamond Head one, there'd be a UFO one, there'd be a Judas Priest one, and so on and so forth. But they were all the popular ones of each of the bands. And the Diamond Head one of there would be Run. My kids knew every single word of it. And I mean, my kids then, my son would be, what would he have been? Let's say, I'm guessing, 8. My daughter 11, my other daughter 12. And they knew every single word because it wasn't a really heavy song. It was acoustic for a start. Just brilliant. I mean, they were just a brilliant band. But to my mind, before we go through gigs, I mean, at the end of the day, Diamond Head came out and they were championed by Jeff Barton and others in sounds. They were loved by many. They were mooted to be the next really big band. I think the blurb at the time was they had the next Led Zeppelin. People felt they had a singer in Sean Harris that was very much like Robert Plant, with the same kind of range as Robert Plant, the same kind of look as Robert Plant. They had a brilliant guitarist in Brian Tatler. Now, he was probably never the quality of Jimmy Page, but some of his riffs and his leads were fantastic. He's one of the best 10 guitarists I've ever seen for my money. Now, when I say that, I mean with the quality of the stuff he put out there, the quality of songs he put out there. If you look at him as a guitarist, have I seen 5 or 10 better than Brian, better on a fretboard and whatever else? Yes, I have. But for songs that I love, with riffs that I love, then he's definitely in my top 10. You know, there might be guitarists that are cleverer than him in that they've taught themselves more, they're quicker along a fretboard and whatever else. They might know more about the dynamics of guitar, but for putting absolute riffs out there, he's very much like Tony Iommi with his riffs, but his leads are great. They're not Gary Moore leads, they're not Eddie Van Halen leads, but they're still great, they suit the song. He's not flash as in over flash, but he can do most things. I think Brian is brilliant. Sean Harris, just a killer vocalist. I thought Colin was a great bass player from what I remember. I've only seen him probably 2-3 times with Colin. Thought he was great. If there was a weak link in the band, and many might disagree, I think it was probably Duncan. I don't think Duncan was the best drummer of all time. I may be wrong, but I don't think he was. They did, I think it was an EP or LP with a live section further down the line. I think it was at Milton Keynes, I think, when they supported Metallica. That was one gig I didn't go. Now, I've read about it since on a couple of occasions. They had no rehearsal time. They'd been apart for a while. They had no rehearsal, but Metallica asked them to come and support. They weren't going to say no to that. It got them back in the public consciousness and a decent payday, I would hope, or would guess. But I believe they'd had very little preparation time. I believe Brian had shingles, it was coming out of shingles, which doesn't help. And the recording is really bad in that. There's a couple of songs where the vocals and the drums are miles out. Now, I don't know how much of that is Brian being ill. I don't know how much of that is Sean being rusty, or how much of it is Duncan's drumming work was really poor and his timing was awful. I think it was the latter, but I don't know, but it sounded awful. That's the worst days of Diamond Head, that live stuff there with Metallica. But everybody has bad days, and that was a bad one, and unfortunately it's been recorded. But they've been together a good while. They were a brilliant band. I think that third LP sort of split them, but they were supposed to be massive. They were going to be massive, and I for one feel they should have been massive. Rumours were and are that they had many offers of record deals and they never took them. They were managed at the time by Sean's mum, and I think it was her boyfriend in the end. I think it was a business associate then boyfriend. I might be wrong about that part. And I think many said they shouldn't have let his mum manage the band, and I think that's probably right. They'd never managed a band before. They might have had a few quid, but I think in hindsight, and hindsight's a wonderful thing, had they got with a proper manager, I think they could have gone a real long way. I seen Diamond Head in the early days, and I've seen them many times. I seen Def Leppard in the very early days. They went stratospheric when was it the second or third LP came out? Was it the Pyromania one? I think it was. Anyway, they went just huge. Meeting Mutt Lang helped them massively, but they went huge. I seen them both when they were young bands, and for me, Diamond Head were the better band by a country mile. I mean, Joe Elliott, great vocalist. Sean Harris, I feel better. Guitarist at Def Leppard, great. Nobody even close to Brian Tatler for my money. Not close. Bass player, both bands, I'd rate Colin as the better. Drummer, Def Leppard had win it there with the drummer. That's for me is the only way that they would win it. Yeah, they've done some killer songs. They've done many memorable songs, Def Leppard, but we know them more because they've had more airtime. They've been on the MTVs and whatever else, and we know all the videos that go with them. Go looking for Diamond Head stuff, and there's very little out there of them performing as a band. Very little, because they just didn't make it. But as I say, people were talking about them as being the next Led Zeppelin. I'm not saying they could have gone that far, but they could have gone a real long way. And I think during the course of the 10 or 15 years, the main 10 or 15 years together in the early days, they made a lot of bad decisions, a hell of a lot of bad decisions. And I'm sure to a man, Sean and Brian included, they regret some of the things that they've done. I'm sure they must do. They just must do, because they could have been absolutely ginormous. But just give you some of the ideas, the places that they played, folks, and I'll give you an idea of the times that I think I've seen them. Now, I've probably seen, God only knows how many bands, I couldn't even tell you. It's loads and loads and loads. I'm in my early 60s now, and there was a time I'd be seeing bands maybe 3 times a week. We lived at Warrington. The train station, the nearest one was probably a mile from my house, mile and a half. We could get to Liverpool really easily. Manchester even easier. Manchester, you have the Apollo and the Free Trade Hall, although that closed down the line. And in Liverpool you have the Empire, right next to the station, all dead easy to get to. It was brilliant. And in those days, you'd often get 2 and 3 bands on, and often the support bands were great as well. More about that another time. But I seen gig after gig after gig. And I was thinking only today before doing this video, I think if you were to say to me where would Diamond Head figure in my best bands of all time, I worked out very quickly that in my favourite 5 acts of all time, my top 5 acts, that is because I love them as a band, I love the songs that they did, and I love them as people. And I've seen them many times and been very close to them many times. But are they one of the best 5 bands of all the bands I've ever seen musically and whatever else? No, they're not. You know, I mean, I'm putting them above people like, well, ginormous bands. Ginormous bands who've done a lot more than Diamond Head ever did, you know, and released probably a better catalogue than Diamond Head ever did. But for me, Diamond Head were just a favourite. They were one of the 5. But give you some ideas. I mean, the Warrington line in 1980, they appeared there on the 1st of March, the 26th of April, the 19th of July, the 4th of October, the 20th of December. I'm certain I was at the 20th of December concert, I'm certain, and I would have been at, I believe, the 19th of July or the 4th of October, but probably both. I'm thinking the first time they ever appeared in Warrington was the 1st of March. I don't think I knew them then. The 26th of April, I may have been there then, somebody may have told me, you've got to come and see this band, but I think they might have played twice before I got wind of them. And I think I've probably seen them in July, October, and also December of that year. I think it'll have been in the October or December that I bought the White Album. Possibly December, but I'm not sure. They played the Apollo on the 21st of January 81. I don't know if I've seen them then, but I know I've seen them at the Apollo. They played the Wigan Pier, the 11th of March 81. I'm pretty certain I went to that. I only seen them once at the Wigan Pier. They played there twice. I only seen them once. They played the Free Trade Hall, the 28th of June 81. I'd definitely seen them then. They played the Power Hall, that's the biggest venue in Warrington where I live, on the 29th of June 81. I don't think I went. I think I might have gone the Free Trade Hall and not the Power Hall, but I don't know how I would have done that when the Power Hall's around the corner from where I live. but I don't think I seen them at the Power Hall. I may be wrong, but I don't think I did. They played the Free Trade Hall again on the 26th of the 3rd, 82. Not sure if I went. Wigan Pier, they played in 82. Not sure if I went. Manchester Apollo, October 82. Not sure if I went. Donington, 83. I went to that. The Apollo in 83. Not sure. Manchester Rock World in 91. I probably went to it, but I don't remember it. But I've been to Rock World a few times, and that'll be when they've got back together again. Manchester University in 91. I'll have probably been to one or both of those. Then they played a place called, I couldn't even remember the name of this, but it's an iconic music venue and I couldn't remember the name. They played a place called the Witchwood in Ashton-under-Lyne. They played there twice, once in 2001 and once in 2002. I seen them once there, I think it was in 2002. And that night, if memory serves, well, the night I seen them, we walked into the Witchwood. I think there was a pool table in the bar side. I think the venue was behind the bar. The bar might have served the concert hall on the front, I don't know, but there was a bar as you walked in and there was a pool table there if memory serves, and I think Sean and Brian were playing pool, and that night if I remember rightly, Sean was in his new romantic mode. He had like a mac on, a mac's the wrong word, but you know, like a Columbo coat, you know, the old thing that Columbo wore. He had one of them on and I think he sung in that night if memory serves. They were sensational that night, really good, really back on form, and I'm thinking they're back, we've got them for good. Sadly it wasn't to be. They played the Limelighting Crew about 6 or 8 times. I think I've seen them once. Then they played the Academy on the 7th of February 2005. I think that was the first time around with Nick Tart singing. That was after Sean Harris left, and I think the LP they were promoting at the time was called Behold the Beginning, I think it was called. I bought that night and I watched them, and they were okay. I couldn't take to Nick Tart. His vocals weren't that bad, but I couldn't take to him as a person. But I think it was because I just couldn't take to the band without Sean fronting it. I think the guy that's with them now, Rasmus, I've never seen them. I think he's probably a better fit, and I bet they're pretty good with him. I've heard a couple of songs with him and they sound good. The LP with Nick Tart wasn't bad at all. There was some great songs there again. Brian's guitaring is fantastic. Some of the riffs are fantastic. The drumming was better than ever before. They were a better band when Duncan left for me, but I couldn't take them without Sean. And that really, folks, is where I am. I'm guessing I've seen them 10 or 12 times, maybe more. That's a lot for one band. The only band I've seen as much as them is Thin Lizzy. I've seen other bands 5 and 6 times, but nobody to that volume. I loved them. I thought they were great. Could they have been ginormous? They could have been. They should have been. They missed the boat, and I think they had more than one chance. They should have been absolutely ginormous. They could and should have been every bit as big as Def Leppard. And the reason I say that is, for me, they're a better band than Def Leppard. And what I'll say about Diamond Head, when they were young and kids, same age as Def Leppard, the fans loved them and people loved them. I remember seeing Def Leppard at Reading when they did Reading, and they were getting bottled, they were getting canned. It was the old doing the old slash in your beer cans on your bottles and throwing it at the band. They had lots of piss thrown at them. I know it's not nice, I know it's not fair. The punk bands normally got that, the rock bands never really did. But they loved themselves and they were dead cocky. They had all the ripped jeans and all the gear on, and you probably had Joe Elliott with his old neckerchief and all that. They loved themselves, he loved himself, and he thought he was great, and he was letting the crowd know how great he was and how great they were, and it didn't go down well. I think they'd done interviews in the music press saying how brilliant they were and how massive they were going to be. They come across as really big-headed and really cocky. Diamond Head never did. Diamond Head were the ones that deserved to have made it. I'm not saying Def Leppard didn't, but Diamond Head deserved it. Diamond Head were absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And I'm just gutted that they didn't make it. And back to the White Album, because that's what it should be about. Just what a killer LP. If you can get it, folks, get it. Just brilliant. Listen to Sean's vocals, a great vocalist. I think the one he always talks about, they mention bands like Priest and Sabbath and Zeppelin and Bad Company and all of those. I think I once read Sean's big influence was Paul Rodgers. I'm sure I read that. You get that when you hear his voice and you hear Rodgers' voice. You can see that. I know on one of the LPs they've done, I think they do a cover of Is It Feel Like Making Love, or Good Loving Gone Bad. They might do both, to be honest with you. Does it fantastically. And that's about it, folks. Not much more to tell. Over the years, every now and again I go on the internet and look for things to do with Diamond Head. I see bits and pieces that Brian has wrote. I know Brian's wrote a book. I've never ever got hold of it. I think it's sold out. I need to get that. I need to read that. Now and again I'll check Sean to see if he's doing anything. He never is. I know he did a bit with Robin George years and years ago. I thought maybe his voice had gone. He wasn't doing it anymore. And lo and behold, after seeing the thing about Sea of Tranquility, I goes online the other day and types in Sean Harris, and what do I get? These 3 or 4 releases on YouTube, and I was over the moon. Did an old Diamond Head song, was brilliant. Him and another guy on acoustic guitars, and his guitar has come on no end. I thought he was just strum it and couldn't play. He can play the guitar now himself. They did a cover of Still in Love with You, the Thin Lizzy song. Could be my favourite song of all time. It'd be sacrilege for anybody to do that other than Phil. I wouldn't accept anybody doing it, but I thought, although I read some reviews and some were saying he did it in a reggae style and it's wrong and he shouldn't have done it, I thought, no, I've got to listen. It's Sean. I love Sean. I've got to listen. Absolutely loved it. If anyone else had done it, I'd have been calling it, but I loved it. Dead different, but great. Talk about his own spin on it. I loved it. I thought it was great. Now, I noticed folk in the comment section have commented, and he's answered a couple of comments, but this is going back 11 months. He was answering stuff 12 months ago and 11 months ago. In the last few months, he's only had the odd comment, no answers. I'm guessing he's walked away again. I think that's what Sean does. I think he walks away for a time and then decides to have another go. I don't think his heart's in it. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think so. To that end, on one of the, I went on a website or something the other day, yesterday following it, and I got an email address. It's probably not up to date. It's probably not policed. It does exist because my email's not bounced back because I've emailed him. I'm going to try and get him on this channel and do a bit of a Q&A with him. I think I've got absolutely no chance, but I'm going to try. If he listens to me, he'll realise that I'm a fan and I'm a proper fan and I've got no agenda. I love the guy. I think he's great. And I'd love him to see him doing some live work again, because I, for one, would go and watch him even without Diamond Head. I love Sean Harris. But Sean, brilliant. Brian, brilliant. Colin, you missed. Duncan, I like you as a fella and you're one of the original members. I think you are the original along with Brian. But I'm not sure I was ever a great fan of Duncan's. But what a band. How big they should have been. They should have been absolutely ginormous. And sadly they weren't. It's one of the saddest stories that I've got to tell from the rock era. Just a really, really sad story. They could have been just massive. And as I said, they missed the bus, I think, on more than one occasion. But what a band. For those that seen them along with me, you'll back me up on it. I don't think I'll have many people in the comment section calling Diamond Head. I really, really don't. A proper band of the people, a proper fantastic band. They really were. They really were. I'd love to see them in arenas now, filling out arenas, because if ever a band deserved it, they did. But that's music sometimes. Some people make it, some people don't, and some people just get dumped on from a great height. I'm not saying they ever did, they didn't. But I know one guy that did, another guy that I like, more about him another day maybe, Bernie Tormey. He got dumped on, he was very, very unlucky. He should have made a good few quid, made nothing. Great shame. Some people come out of music with loads and loads of money. Some people come out with fortunes and have no talent. And some people have loads of talent and or charisma and just have a bad hand dealt to them. He did. And as for Diamond Head, they did. But as I say, I think a lot of it was their own fault, unfortunately. I really do. But what a great shame. What a great shame. Anyway, the White Album, if you've not got it, folks, go and get it. If you get the chance, 4 cuts, the acoustic version, 4 songs. Listen to Run. Give it a few goes, you'll love it. It's a crackerjack of a song. And live, listen, not live, the original band, Am I Evil from the White LP. Am I Evil? Give that a listen. The intro's brilliant, really is.